Hello, everyone. I'm Ed Pilkington, and I'm the Chief Marketing Officer and Innovation Officer for Diageo North America. I'm based in New York.
I am Micky. I'm the founder and president of Bakery. We are an agency of Diageo's, and I think I'm contractually obligated to be here with Ed.
Micky asked me to come, so I think it's part of relationship building, exactly.
It was really hard to figure out why we're all here, but we're here and we're going to have fun today.
In a broader sense, I'm sure it is.
Yes. So we're here to talk about innovation, and I think in our industry, we throw around a lot of words, but it's really important to ground ourselves, whether it's a creative conversation, a strategic conversation, a relationship conversation. I'd love to hear from this team on how you define innovation.
When do you kick off? You go.
Sure. Well, we are definitely. I don't think I'm not going to be talking about AI today, so there you go, sir. No, I think the kind of innovation we're talking about is a lot of times organizationally what you saw over the last 10, 12 years is organizations separating their innovation from their marketing, from their brand building. And it's sort of like that group over there in the dungeon, they innovate stuff, in the little lab that we have and stuff like that. And then these guys, that go to Cannes and do all the cool stuff, they market stuff, but the two shall never meet. And I think that we're seeing this renaissance of innovation teams merging with marketing teams to understand that in the ADD sort of pace that we're in, that innovation needs to be a brand building tool. You need to continue to put out a calendar and a pace of new product, new offerings that make your brand more valuable. And of course, we see that with sneakers and streetwear and things like that, very, very clearly. Nike, one of the biggest things of the price going up and down on their stock is like, where's the innovation? You haven't put out something new, or you have put out something new. That's good. So other companies adopting this as a tool, I think, is to me a bigger wave of the future than just Gen AI as a general context or whatever. But anyway.
Yeah, I think what's the definition of innovation? It's at a very basic level, you need to be putting out insight-driven ideas that are going to which are new and are going to make a difference to your business, and hopefully make a difference to your business because they are, relevant to consumers. Consumers get excited by them. They want to go and buy them, and they want to go and buy them again, and they make everyone money, and you're a positive cycle about it. I mean, at a basic level, that's what we will need to do. And to Micky's point, having stuff that keeps brand. I mean, there's a bit about stuff which is new. So in our industry, launching stuff which is generally new brands, that's innovation. But then freshening up brands as well. So the role that innovation plays on our core brands is really critical in terms of how it brings in. And I would say good innovation, especially on core brands, should do really three things. It should recruit new consumers. So you want to bring new consumers into your brand. If not, you're cannibalizing your brand. It should ideally take your brand, in our industry, into new occasions. So take you to a new, otherwise, again, you're essentially cannibalizing what you're doing. And ideally, it should premiumize your brand because it means you can charge more. And if you can do all three, then that's like a trifecta. That's like cha-ching. Thank you very much.
Cha-ching. I love it.
Yeah.
I think the one through line that I caught from that is like relevancy seems to be everything.
Yeah.
So how do you ensure, whether it's through product innovation, product testing, new markets, how do you find relevancy within Diageo, and how does that marry back to what Bakery does?
We find relevancy by, you take a step back. We always start our innovation by looking at the broad trends, so what's going on, so you need to make sure it's relevant. I think if you're danger, and Micky would say this, if you're too brand out, if you just start thinking about the brand and where the brand's at, so you have to start all your sort of 2, 3, 4, 5 year innovation planning by just looking at what's going on in the world and what the big trends are. So whether that's wellness, which has been an ongoing trend, premiumization, quality over quantity. So just recognizing those and looking at that and having a deep understanding of those trends, then you layer it down to make sure you start to think about, well, how are those relevant for the different portfolio? We have a big portfolio. And then you start to marry in, well, what do we want to do on our different brands? But relevancy has to ultimately start by making sure you are creating stuff which is relevant for the world that we live in and relevant to the big trends that we're seeing, the big societal trends and all of that. That's the key thing.
So we start up here and then we exit down here.
Yeah.
Like, how do we make sure that we're not just waterfalling this approach, and how are we like baking it in, for lack of a better term? Like, what do you find your role to be as an innovation agency partner to Diageo?
Well, I mean, there's obviously like the brochure sort of answer, because I don't know how long we have up here, but
You're good. You're good. Keep
okay.
going.
No, but like where it's sort of like trend tracking and blah blah all that stuff. But the reality is, to do this work well, you're not trend tracking as much as it sounds like you are. You're creating trends a little bit more, and that's a lot more difficult. That takes working with people that understand, what is going on, like out. Well, not here. This is a ridiculous bubble we're in right now. But no, but like out there in the world, like what is going on, what people care about, what they may care about if you present it to them in a certain context. That is the real work, and like again, there's not a lot of easy answers to that, and if you're getting into these panels that are about like AI and all that stuff, I get it, that's cool, but it's all about sort of the race to the bottom a little bit too, where it's just like, get me the easy answer fast, and it's sort of like, all right, so you're gonna look like everybody else, and you're gonna be doing what everyone else is doing, and you're gonna, it's not gonna be a thing, and then somebody out there is going to be, doing the stuff that Pharrell is doing with Louis V and whatever that people are talking about, and people are going to care about those things more than any of this other facilitating situation. So really, it's about the hard work of understanding who the consumer is, what you can put in front of them that they may react to, and not being afraid to fail pretty regularly as part of your plan. Like, understand, I'm going to put 10 things out, 8 or 9 of them are going to fail, but the one that works, well, that thing's going to pay for the failure and then some, right? So and I think Diageo's really good at that. Like I mean, not too many people remember our failures, because we're good at testing, like quickly, seeing what the consumer's telling us in real time, and then doubling down on the thing that's going well.
Yeah, it's true.
I think at the core of that, whether it's like going at something very hard and failing, it's a relationship, right? So it's the understanding between you two. Can you talk a little bit of the dynamic of what that push and pull is when it comes to strategic and creative feedback sessions or loops or testing with consumers to make sure that the innovation is in some warm water and people want to come and party?
Well, I mean, between Ed and I, there's like, I don't even know, like 1,000 people, but so I don't know if we have that many feedback loops that way that you might have talked about, but I think, and of course you can speak to it from your perspective. I mean, from what I see Ed doing is putting the right people on the right brands, combining sort of like, okay, somebody that's got to go and tell people that this new Don Julio product is legitimate and awesome. Well, you have to have the right people there to tell that story, and then the right agencies, and then the right testing model and all of that. So I think like that's where Ed sits on in that process. But in terms of the feedback, that machine, again, it's institutional, right? Like you have to be able to organizationally be comfortable with a pretty decent level of failure, understanding this is part of our machine, if you look at the model that was created by Blumhouse, Productions, I know that this is the wrong Cannes Festival to talk about a film studio, but like if you look at their model, it was, okay, let's, instead of putting out one movie for $100 million, let's put out 20 a year, for like, let's do an arbitrary $4.5 million budget for each one. Most of them are going to go straight to DVD, so to speak, right? And then one of them's going to be like Get Out and get nominated, and make $250 or $500 million off of a $4 million budget, right? So it's that mentality that if you can make it work from the top down, you're going to see way more success than you're going to see like the failures, right? So
no, it's true. But you also make sure you put a process in place. So we're evolving ours at the moment, but we still have essentially a gate process. So in the early stages, gates 0 to 3, you're basically ideating. So you come back to what are the big ideas, what are your trends, you look at the big areas, but then brand by brand, you look at what's your innovation agenda. Then you work with Micky and the team, and you start ideating and concepting. So you're right, then you make sure that the teams, you're getting feedback, you have specific sessions along the way in terms of the process where you are refining that. You'll see the concept, you refine it, you'll research it, you'll come back. People like me will jump in and give my 2 penny worth and say, I like this. What about that? I'm not sure this is right. You get into, then you do get into the fine element of, really perfecting a concept. Has it right? Have you got, the naming right, the packaging right, the design fit, all those elements. I mean, I still, funny, during the pandemic was obviously an extraordinary time for everyone. But I've got a wardrobe still at home where I just used to get the samples sent to me, and you're still checking it all off and checking the liquids and refining stuff and all that stuff. So you still jump in, you still got to refine and work it through. You'll get all the test results. The test results are useful, but I'm not a slave to them because they are informative. But again, there's a bit about your feeling and judgment as well, which comes into it as well. It's a blend of data and information, and having partners who push you, who challenge you and give you different ideas and stuff like that is really important as well.
But to your point, right? So like,
and you start the idea is start broad and narrow down.
Yeah.
And I like to start broad. I mean, actually, sorry, it wasn't with these guys, but it was another. But a while ago, I saw a presentation. It felt a bit narrow, and I sort of dug around and I said, "Can I see the original presentation?" And the original presentation was like 60 pages, and within that there was a wealth of different ideas, which had got pruned down, and to stuff which I thought was okay, but it just got being watered down. Within the 40 pages that weren't presented, there was some magic in there. And actually, we took some of that stuff and turned it into something which has actually been quite successful. So I think that sometimes there is a bit about making sure the team, the collective team, at those early stages of developing and innovating are really thinking broadly and looking at stuff. It's really important.
Yeah, I think what you're talking about also is establishing an environment where you can share early and often.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Not necessarily as a tech partner, a creative partner, a production partner, feel like it needs to be perfect. Like Micky had shared with me in a briefing that like we're a 0 to 100 group. That means that like from the relationship to the work, like they need to feel like they're with you along the ride.
That's right.
Like as you develop and hone this innovation, like how do you at your level want to see some of the work? Like you talk about, that's probably a very particular presentation where you were brought in from the very beginning, but as you catch wind of things across the full portfolio, what's the best way to demonstrate innovation to a CMO level status?
Yeah. Well, we start with what are the big spaces? So we look at those. We then go into categories. So we look at, category-wise, where do we want to play? And within that category, it's around the consumer motivations, price points it may be. But again, you've got to have the right concepting. So we have a sort of, here's the spaces where we want to play category by category, brand by brand. So if it's tequila, we'll look at, Don Julio, Casamigos. Where are the spaces we want to play? And then we'll write the briefs, and then we'll get into the spaces. So say you want to launch a new, here comes the,
is that our torch?
let's pause for the torch.
We've got to see the torch.
Hey, we got to see the torch.
It's more interesting than listening to us.
There we go. You're welcome. What a once in a lifetime opportunity brought to you by Diageo.
There you go. Nice snap. There you go.
I think it's in and out. All right. We have about 5 more minutes, and I think we started a pretty cool conversation right before we saw the most epic flame and innovative thing I've ever seen since the dawn of the Olympics, a torch. But it was about how like the work needs to start really wide, the relationship needs to be really strong, and I think when the work starts really wide, it requires good intel from the brand itself, but then also listening to an audience. And one of the thoughts I had was flavors are really big right now, and so do you have a thought as to how that is baked into your consumers' culture and actual product development?
Yeah, it's a big one. I mean, and sometimes flavor innovation looks really basic. We've just launched Crown Royal, which is our biggest brand in North America, the big Canadian whiskey brand, and we've just launched a Crown Royal Blackberry. The brand has a large consumer base, and you might go, that's really obvious, but actually berries are really hot at the moment. So there's a whole thing of the trending. Berries are trending. They're doing well in flavors. People love Crown flavors. There's a whole audience of people after that. We launched it, and literally had lines of people around when we put it out there wanting to get this thing. We had to manage stock for a bit, but it just took off. So I think it's an interesting one because you took a hot flavor onto a hot brand. An interesting one we did, if you think about Latin flavors, what's coming on, the big food trends. Spicy food is really, so it's like Mexican food's got bigger across America. So what's driving tequila growth? Many things that drove tequila around the world, but a big part of it was Mexican food. What do you drink with Mexican food? You're drinking margarita. What's happened? Mexican food's become the biggest food trend in the US. So as Mexican food's grown, kind of tequila and margaritas have gone with it. And as you do that, you start to get more Mexican food. So we launched a Smirnoff Tamarind about 3 or 4 years ago. and it's just growing and growing and growing in popularity. And when we did it, it didn't test particularly well because people were like, well, I don't really know tamarind. But it was just that hot you could see that it was a hot flavor trend that was really popping in food. And once you start to translate that food across into drink and then make it and then get people to try it and sample it, it starts to really happen actually. So I think so getting the right flavor, right time, right brand is really, really, and if you get it right, it will fly.
How do you translate that in the marketing, communications, advertising space, Micky?
Well, I think, look, in general, that's part of the weakness and problem is to think of it only as an agency, think only as like, oh, marketing, communications, etc. Again, you said it earlier. One of the things that make us different as an agency is that we actually get into the lab with the brands to make things, and so that includes liquid, packaging, whatever it might be. With Nike, it means making shoes. With DeLorean, it now means making cars, which is weird. We're learning. That one's difficult, but we're actually the whole idea is pulling all of these departments together to talk to each other. And a lot of times these departments do not speak to each other: sales, distribution, innovation, marketing. And so being kind of that catalyst, that group that brings everybody together is that's actually where I think like the best creativity can come from. And we saw it, this isn't something that we invented. It's like you've seen it from like RGA back in the day. I remember when I started bakery, like I was very like impressed by RGA making the Nike Plus, like the running stuff with the chips and the shoes and the whatever. And I was like, that was an agency that did that, and with Nike, like they innovated with Nike. So I thought that was really cool. But then you kind of just saw it like few and far in between. And we've been one of those groups that are just trying to like, no, this is the way we do business. So I think, again, just to reframe a little bit, I think that the marketing and communication side is bake it into the product, like literally make the marketing, part of the product. Apple did it back in the day with the iPhone with white background, hand holding up the product. That was it. That's the campaign. You know what I mean? And everyone bought an iPhone. So it's make the product good enough, like sexy enough, interesting enough, like all the things that it needs to be. And, then half the job is done. So I sorry for the big roundabout, but that was, I don't, what the thing we try not to do is to like just be handed a thing that came off the assembly line and then someone tell us like, go sell it to people. I don't know if they want it or not, but here, it's usually, not a great.
It's tell people what it is, but done in a way which is contextually relevant and kind of cool, basically.
Choreography.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's good choreography. We're going to open it up to some questions. We'll take them about the torch. We'll take them about how you feel today. We'll take them about innovation.
We're going to launch it.
Nothing about AI, please.
Thanks for a great conversation and incredible resumption of activity, I have to say. That was incredibly well handled. I have a question for Micky and Ed. You said something about, this approach of failing fast and kind of being willing to accept that. I'm curious how you deal with that and how Ed thinks about that. Because to me, in my organization, that's one of the hard things. You start something new and you're just, you're tied to it. You want to give it more time to succeed. So how do you build a muscle to be willing to let those things not succeed?
Yeah, we're not bad at it, but we could be probably a lot better at it because the challenge, the skill actually is to test small, learn fast, and then either accelerate or kill. That's the theory that everyone talks about, everyone writes about, and that's really good. I think we're not bad at it, but we could be a lot better at it. Sometimes the challenge is we get excited about an idea, and actually then the danger is you can go too fast, and then you get a little bit ahead of yourself. And actually, if you're not communicating and not putting it out there, you can end up with stuff. We've got some commercial issues. You can end up with candidly too much stock out in the trade and stuff like that. So then failing can become an issue because it can become a financial issue. So we've had stuff like that. So I think the key thing is when you're launching something, being very clear about your expectations at launch is the key thing. So either you're going to test, we're going to learn, we're starting small, and we're going to rapidly scale. Or this is what we're going to do. If you want to go big, be very clear you're going to go big, and everyone metaphorically holds hands on going big because there can be some issues with that. Because if it doesn't work, you're probably going to have some implications in terms of stock in trade and how you manage that and all sorts of stuff. So getting the balance right, and actually a lot of that, you touched on it, comes down to the process as you're launching something or testing something, making sure it really is a combined business process. So you've got the marketing guys, the innovation people, the supply people, the finance people, the sales people, all joined up, signing it off and saying, this is what we agree to. We agree to this level of investment, this level of volume when you sell something. You've got to get it all signed up, because then it becomes a collective responsibility. And if you've got that collective responsibility and it doesn't work, then you're all in it together and you try and fix it. That's the whole thing. So that's important.
That.
Yes. Other questions? No? All right. I guess we informed you so well.
There we go. We'll be launching the flame soon.
We're launching the flame. Coming soon. Thank you.
Brilliant.